Hi, Rowan. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk Blue to Blue with you. So you are Rowan Gallagher,
Mhm.
correct?
That's
And
correct.
where do you come to us from?
I am a actor, director, dramaturg, dialect coach, lots of different hats in the Seattle theater community. I'm a core ensemble member with Magpie Artists Ensemble, a company that I helped start out of college, and Latitude Theater Company, which is another fringe company that is up and coming in the Seattle area. So yeah, I'm just fairly new to the scene, but I'm trying to do as much as I can in the new works and fringe scenes here in Seattle.
Fabulous, fabulous. I have had such an great opportunity getting to know you through this process, and I can't wait to help everyone else get to know you too. Mind if I jump into the first question?
Absolutely.
All right. So, I mean, it's a big question, kind of broad, but like, what is been your directorial vision for Blue to Blue?
Absolutely. So, Blue to Blue deals with a lot of themes of grief, personal grief and universal grief, and how those two things relate to each other, specifically filtered through the lens of our main character, Beryl, and how she's experiencing the grief of losing her mother very recently when our play begins. So, my approach is that I'm trying to use this very specific story that we're given to create a production that brings the audience into the process of grief with Beryl and allows them to relate that to their own personal grief as well as the universal grief for events in the world that we're all experiencing right now, and allow for moments of group catharsis and group feeling. And through this lens of theater and through this lens of this one person story, kind of making the personal universal and bringing everybody in to the same place for a few hours. Hopefully an hour and a half. That's the runtime we're aiming for.
You have a lot of interesting things you got to fit in that hour and a half.
Yes, we do. It's lots of crazy magical realism, floating chairs, floating tables, all that jazz. It's gonna be
I'm
crazy.
terrified to see how you accomplish that.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how that all comes together. But you're not alone in this. There's the amazing Allison Kozar, who I've had the opportunity to work with, here on a few of the productions, and I'm very curious how your vision and Allison's vision have come together because I'm sure there's differences and similarities. Could you tell me a little something about that?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very fortunate because my degree and my experience a lot is in original work and also generative theater making. So I'm very used to working with a big group of other artists on equal footing to create a finished product that feels like it was created and produced by an individual. That idea of ensemble as individual is something that I really strive for in all of the work I do. So working with one other person is actually substantially easier than having a group of 10 people who are all equal in the generative process of creating a new play. But that said, it is different when you have the traditional hierarchical structure of, director, designers, all of that that you're used to having with theater, and then you have two people filling the role of director. We're definitely fortunate because I come from a very physical actor, like, getting in with all the weird movement exercises and getting people to kind of generate things and then shaping that. Like, that's where I come at directing from, at least to start with. And Allison comes from a far more technical background with sound design and stage management. And so we honestly have very different things to offer when it comes to directing. So I think that we just become a more well-rounded single director when we work together. Like we haven't had much trouble with divvying out responsibilities. We've been very flexible around one another. I don't think either of us has felt stifled or overruled at any point because we're really focusing on different things and we're able to check in with each other and make sure that the other is feeling like well represented and that their work is being put into the show as they would like it to be represented. And we're there to second guess each other too, because sometimes I'll make a call that simply doesn't work with the actual production that we're doing. And the same thing happens with Allison. Sometimes they'll bring something to the table and I'll say, well, why don't we consider it this way? And so it's just a very positive collaborative experience. I haven't had any real conflict in it so far, to be honest.
Fabulous. I'll be curious to see what Allison has to say about that
Yeah,
when I
maybe
ask.
they'll just say that they hated everything that I've done and
Just every idea to shot
shot down.
down.
Yeah, such a controlling, over micromanagerial director.
No, no, I'm sure it's been. It'll be all praise, all
Yeah, let's hope.
praise. I'll edit everything out that's not.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course, of course. um, I'm very curious. This show is very personal. I had the chance to talk to Christine about the creation of the script, the characters in the story, and it was deeply based on experiences in her life and in things she experiences through the poetry that has centered the storyline. But I'm curious how you have taken your personal experiences with the themes, especially grief, in your life, in your family, and then have pulled from them into your direction for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate in that I have not lost any of my direct personal family members at this point in my life, but that's not to say that I haven't experienced loss within my family. I lost my uncle when I was very young to brain cancer. I most recently lost my grandmother, my mother's mother, to cancer as well. And I was, I think, 19 or 20 when that happened, and so I was a lot older, and I was a lot more able to be a part of my mother's grieving experience through that experience for her, just because I had a lot more perspective and was a lot more, I don't know, aware of what she was going through at that time. And I think I've definitely pulled from that to some degree to understand what Christine is writing about and the very, very deep personal loss that it is to lose a parent, especially someone that you're so very close to. Because my mother and her mother were very close, just like the character in the show, Beryl, and her mother were very close before her passing. So that's definitely been helpful. But also, I definitely like to approach directing the same way I approach acting, which is you can draw from personal experience, but for the most part, I try to strip away all of the personal connectors from the experience that I'm trying to use in the show in order to make it safe to use for both myself and the actors. Because you don't really want to be thinking about your own dead family members when you're trying to represent grief on stage. You want to be living truthfully within the character who has their own experience with grief. So it's okay to take that feeling and apply it to the work, but adding all the personal details and things like that is something that I discourage for actors and directors both. So that's really what I've been trying to do is take my personal experience, raise it to a universal concept of what that grief feels like, and then reapply it to this production and to the characters we're working with in order to make it truthful without being harmful for anybody involved.
Yeah, using it to understand, but not, instilling it into every thought and feeling
To
the whole
contextualize the
process. Yeah.
creation of an original story, not bringing our own baggage into the room, because that just leads to, you know, getting into your own personal issues, and theater, while it can be therapeutic, should never be therapy. Yeah, in my personal opinion.
We'll have to add that as the tagline.
Yes.
Oh. So you've had the opportunity to be part of different companies, here in Seattle, and this is your first time at Annex. What has been the unique experience for you directing in our space and with our company and staff versus the other places you've done productions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, the work that I've done in Seattle so far since graduating college has all been fairly similar to the work at Annex that we're doing here. I've mostly worked in Fringe with very small companies. The largest scale work that I've done has been with Taproot Theater, doing dramaturgy and dialect coaching for their productions. But other than that, both Latitude Theater and Magpie Artist Ensemble, we're both definitely on the Fringe side of things as well. And we definitely are in the same boat of being like, scrappy little companies that bring our resources together to create a show greater than the sum of its parts. So I'm very familiar with that concept, and I felt right at home at Annex, honestly, the entire time. One thing that's really lovely and that I've enjoyed about working with Annex a lot is this wonderful space that you guys have, because both Latitude and Magpie, we work at many different theaters, but we are not fortunate enough to have a single space that we can call home. So it's been really nice to have the building itself to support and to have us here for this work, because it's just felt so much more grounded than having to, bounce around the different rehearsal rooms and then have only a limited amount of time to actually move into the theater and work. Instead, it's just all been within the container of Annex, both as a company and as a building. So that's been really, really novel and nice for sure.
Well, we've been happy to have you, and it's been amazing to be here and see the process through, the whole time on our stage. And I'm on part of the production and on the design team, and I've been able to, watch your process and watch how you've used the space in such interesting and fun ways. and we've loved having this production, you and the whole team. And let's leave on a lighter, more fun note. What is your favorite moment in the play? Up to you.
I am really, really happy with the final stage picture that we have working with right now. I don't want to spoil what that is exactly, but it's very dramatic and it's very impactful. So I would encourage everybody watching at home to come and see the show so they can see what I'm talking about, because it's a really, really wonderful conclusion and just, I think, visually encapsulates what the show is all about, and leaves people with the right questions that we want them to be thinking about. And yeah, just sets that tone really, really well.
I can't wait to see the end of the show because I've seen some runs, but it sounds like that's not adequate, right?
Yeah, no. My the vision in my head, that picture has not come to fruition yet, but that's because it's gonna take all the different aspects of the design team and the tech, the lights, all of that to really make that moment come to life. So I'm excited for everybody to see it, and I'm personally excited to see it in real space too. So it's gonna be really great. Come and see our show. It's gonna be a wild ride, but one you will not regret coming out to see.
I hope we have those seats filled, and I can't wait to be in one of them for sure. Well, thank you so much for talking with me and discussing the show. I can't wait to talk to Allison and see how your visions and answers mix and what's different. And I'm sure it's going to be eye-opening for everyone as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Both
having
the
me.
show and the answers,
Yeah.
obviously. Anyway, thank you so much, Rowan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Don't you have a rehearsal to get to?
I do. Yeah, I should probably get going.
All right.